So today we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to end this first incredible season with interviewing one another. And that's because when Claire and I came together to start this podcast, we knew each other somewhat well. And over the course of the interviews in the office and our friendship and work together outside the office, we've gotten to know each other better. But you know, a lot of these podcasts have been able to really shine a light on these amazing San Diegans. And we thought it'd be fun to be able to interview each other as sort of the wrap to the season.
Yeah, I love that. I also feel like we started this project without a real clear vision of what we wanted it to be, or maybe what it was going to be. And it became very clear after the first one, and then definitely after Claudette's, that this was bigger than I think we both were prepared for. The depths of the conversations, how emotional we would get, our guests would get, the range of people that were interested in coming on to talk about their experiences. And so it kind of evolved on the fly, which I really am grateful for that it did, that we didn't pigeonhole ourselves and that we kind of trusted people to be along with us for that journey. And so I feel like wrapping it with just a conversation between us on who we are and why we did this in the first place is a good way to end this season with. That was really just the highlight of this last year for me in so many ways.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it was just, I think what so many people maybe realize or don't, and if this is the only one they listen to, then we can tell them, like, we were both very fresh off of having children. And so we were in vulnerable places, and I think that vulnerability really allowed for this to flourish. And I feel like right now, we're in a completely different place, you know, personally, professionally, that we're on our feet. But I think it's important for people to know more about, like, the fact that you, like, bought the magazine and had the baby in, like, the same week, and, like, why you bought the magazine, and, like, what this is all kind of meant for you. And so why don't you tell us a little bit more about maybe a little bit snippet of that week and then kind of backwards.
Yeah, when I was prepping for this, I started going through pictures and then going through emails from that time, and I still sometimes, it catches my breath that we did this. But, you know, Troy and I had been working on potentially taking over this company for a long time. In the middle of the pandemic, way before I got pregnant, this was a seed of an idea that I came to him with, and he told me I was insane and no way. And it took a little while and some vision planting and some, you know, crazy life and world events to happen for us to be like, you know what, let's do it. Let's do it. But the deal turned out to be a lot more complicated than I think either of us anticipated. And truthfully, neither Troy nor I were entrepreneurs before. You know, he was a writer and a culture critic and on TV, and I had been raised by a corporation working at NBC back in New York, first in New York and then remotely here. So we didn't have, you know, we'd never been through an acquisition like this before. So it was a learning experience for us. But then, you know, and there was a couple of times where we were just like, let's just walk away. This is too complicated, you know, and then I got pregnant. And it was not intentional. You know, I think I talked about on one of the episodes that I was off birth control for a month, maybe two, and using ovulation strips, but just couldn't fully wrap my head around it. Anyway, within a month was pregnant, and kind of looked at him like, what do we do? Like, do we walk away from this deal? Do I stay with my job that has amazing benefits? And, you know, I was working full-time at NBC at that point, again, after a little stint in consulting. So the plan was really, let's just carry on. I'm going to stay at my job for the long haul because I really loved working there.
Yeah.
And it was challenging, but I was also working East Coast hours, so I was 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. Anyway, the deal kept dragging on. And as we were getting closer and closer to my due date, I was like, we're going to have to make a choice. We have to either walk away or set a deadline and say, if it does not happen by this date, then we got to go. And my due date was November 14th, I think. Nope, it was November 7th. And we closed the deal and signed the papers on October 29th. So we're like, okay, like no problem. The company's running as it is. It's fully staffed, ready to go. I'm going to go on maternity leave, and then I'll start working back at NBC in March or April, and Troy will start diving into the magazine, and we're going to figure this out. It's going to be fine.
There felt like there was a lot of like time for transition, and it wasn't feeling like signing was going to be as crazy as it turned out to be.
Exactly. I think, you know, and again, we just didn't know what we didn't know.
Right.
But the company had been through so much, and there was a lot of scar tissue, and I don't think we realized how much change and hands-on operational maneuvering it would really need to get us through some of the slower months in media. And there was a person at the company who'd been there for a long time that was basically like directing operations. And she put in her notice soon after we acquired the company, and the two weren't related. She was really fabulous, and she had known about the deal coming for a long time. But we thought we had more time with her than that. So deal goes through October 29th. Jasper's born November 8th. She left November 14th or something like that. Maybe it was a little bit later, but or she put in her notice basically soon after. And it just started to become clear after, you know, the course of a month or two that I was going to have to leave my job and come work with Troy on this, that there was no way that he could do this on his own. As a family, there was no way that we were going to be able to live separate lives, that this job was really going to be full, you know, all-encompassing, and that we needed to do it together. So come, I think it was February, I called my boss at NBC and gave him the notice, and it was honestly probably one of the most challenging conversations professionally I've ever had, because it's the only place I've ever worked. I've been at NBC since 2 weeks after I graduated college.
Wow.
I learned a ton. My friends from New York were almost all entirely from work, and I was set up to have a really strong career there, and I busted my ass for the last 14 years. So to call and be like, I'm leaving because my husband and I acquired a print magazine, and I'm going to go run their operations department. My boss was like, are you sure?
I know. Let's talk about that for a minute, because I think that so many women that relate to us relate to that drive, relate to that feeling of like moving up and understanding and feeling on your feet, right? Like there's nothing better than that feeling, getting paid well, having structure, having great friends, like having it all. But something called you to this magazine, and I want to like understand that more. Like, what was the calling?
I think it became, you know, I've always cared about journalism. I've always really believed in the power of a free press. I wanted to be a journalist when I was younger. I studied journalism in college, and my career took me in a different path for one reason or another. But I really, really believe in the power of storytelling and how vital it is to community growth, and specifically how important local media is to community growth. Mm-hmm. We saw that during the pandemic. We saw that during the, you know, cultural revolution, the social revolution of 2020 with Black Lives Matter. We saw how quickly people turned to local media in one shape or another to get vital information. And especially during the pandemic, when everything was locked down, we turned to our neighbors, we turned to our towns, you know, our radius shrunk. And I think that for Troy and I both, as storytellers in our own way, we wanted to bring it home. You know, there's so much happening in the world that obviously neither of us can predict what is going to happen in the next 10 years, but I think that we feel some sort of existential pull to really focus on seeing if we can build something very cool for San Diego. That there's more stories to be told here than have previously been told. That there's sides of the city that we haven't discovered, that we don't know about. That there's some magic that happens here. That there's challenge, there's adversity, there's, you know, we're a culturally significant city for a lot of different reasons. We're a border city, you know, we're Southern California. And and we're culturally and ethnically diverse as well. So there's a lot, I think, that happens in the city, and it sort of gets washed over by the weather, and it gets washed over by the wealth, and
or like the beachy, laid back, whatever. I totally agree. It took me a while to rediscover that when I came back.
I believe that, yeah.
I thought what was interesting is when you said, I want to bring it home, because this isn't home for you, and now it is.
It is.
And, another city has been a home for you for so long. What made San Diego feel like home to you?
Well, I think that for a really long time, I was living two lives. I woke up in the morning, signed on to my computer, and continued functioning within my New York career, my New York job, the same people, the same email addresses, the same Slack messages. Everything was the same. And once a month pre-pandemic, I was traveling back to New York, and I had the same coffee date with my mom that I had before I even moved here. We met up in Midtown, the second day that I flew in, and we had coffee every morning. And I just continued to live that life. I didn't miss birthday parties. I didn't miss engagement parties. I was just living bi-coastal, and I did love that. But I didn't get to know San Diego. I felt like, especially because my time with Troy was limited between his travels and my travels, when I was here, we hunkered down. We really nested. We didn't go out that much except for his job. I made two friends, shout out Fiona and Nicole. They were my only friends, and Hannah for the first few years that I was here. So I think during the pandemic, when I couldn't go home, or I chose not to go home, and I stayed in San Diego, and I started walking the city. It started in OB, and then I started the only, friend dates that I had. We would meet in different neighborhoods and walk. And Jillian Flynn, she's one of the editors at large at San Diego Magazine. She and I would meet once a month, and we would go for walks in different neighborhoods, and she knew about the history and the culture and the architecture and the design of it. And I think because I'm from New York, walking it made it feel more like home.
Yeah.
And I think that I was here for so long. I don't think I left San Diego for the first 8 months of the pandemic until Troy and I drove to Santa Barbara. So that's really when it became home. And Ocean Beach became very much home to us. It was our safety net. We became really good friends with our neighbors during the pandemic. We had front yard parties, when we could. And it just
that time feels so special, as much as I know we always have to have an asterisk around saying that 2020 was special, because my God, it was marred with so much
trauma,
violence, ugliness, death. But it's now that life is going again, I know all of us have a little baby part of us that yearns for that quiet movies back to back to back all night, and no bedtime because there wasn't much work to do or whatever it was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I know. Life was a lot slower then, and I don't know if maybe part of my postpartum depression also stemmed from the fact that for so long life had been very slow and very simple. And while I was working like crazy, I was working from my home, and at 3:30 I stopped and took my dog on a beach walk and did a 45-minute spin class, and then we cooked dinner, drank wine, and watched a show and went to bed every single night. And then all of a sudden it was okay, now you're business owners, you own the magazine, and you have a baby, and you're not sleeping, and you have 1,010 different appointments, and we're still in a pandemic, and you have to figure out, there was a lot of problems that we had to overcome, or challenges that we had to overcome, and it was crazy whiplash. It was just I had this insane seed of doubt that I would be able to handle it, one way or another. At first it was I'm still going to be working my job. How are we going to do this together as a family? And then when it became clear that I couldn't keep that job, that, Troy and I had to do this together, you're just afraid that you're going to disappoint. You're afraid that you're not going to be able to do it. And I think what's been just absolutely incredible is Troy and I working together day and night, living together, obviously, raising this baby together, and we're seeing the seeds of our dreams start to happen. Everything, there's still challenges. We're still learning. We're still making mistakes. It's still an enormous amount of work, but I had this moment driving home from the new office the other day where I was it's 12 minutes from the new office to our house. My best friends now work at the magazine, meaning I've become very close with the staff at the magazine. And it took me 12 minutes to get home to my beach house, basically, our beach condo, where my dog and my baby and my husband were. And we cooked and put Jasper to bed and stayed up late talking about the magazine. And it just, there's so much cool stuff happening that even though it's been a wild whiplash of a ride, we're starting to see it really become something.
Yeah.
And it reminds us, like, we just have to keep our eyes on the North Star through all the insanity, through, whatever comes our way. It's like, just keep our eyes on the North Star.
And maybe that North Star changes, right? Like, maybe the North Star is each other because, like, everything else is so crazy, and I don't know why that just made me emotional thinking about you too, but it's really special that you haven't killed each other. I mean, yay for that. But also just that, you can let loose. Like, the Best of San Diego party the other night was just, Jason and I had so much fun with you guys, and it was just fun to be able to, like, see you, like, dressed up and free. And so that feeling that you described when you, like, actually got to drive home in 12 minutes and see the baby and walk the dog and have that feeling again, I know exactly what that's like. And it's like coming home again.
Yeah.
Like, that feeling. It's just, it changes and it evolves as you become a different kind of woman with each step, right? Like, it doesn't matter whether we become moms or not. We're just evolving women who, one part of that evolution was to become a mom of a newborn, and then to also become a mom of a child who's independent and learning to crawl, but you have really wonderful help because then that allows you to go and work more. And, like, there's just so much evolution to being a woman, but I know that exact feeling of what you're talking about.
It's constant change. And I think once you give up needing to control that change and give up needing to know exactly what the future looks like, and instead just liberate yourself to say, like, what's important, me and Troy, like that, he's my North Star for sure. And the dream that we have for this magazine and for creating a place where creative people can thrive and where stories are told and beautiful photographs are published and videos are made. Shout out, Jeremy. And but where we can get creative and have fun, I think that is the dream. And as long as we're willing to change and evolve and be challenged, then I think we're going to be okay.
Amazing. Is there anything else that you want us to cover with your journey here that you feel like we haven't? I mean, maybe we talk about, like, a quick moment of, like, even your journey from starting to ending this season. Like, maybe just,
oh my God, let's just, like, quickly
work
recap
aside,
that.
Like, let's do work aside and be like, where were you at when we started this podcast, and where do you feel like you are now as a human?
I'm really proud of myself, if I can be honest, because I remember when we started planning this being like, I can't do it. I just don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I was still breastfeeding every 3 hours, and there was just a lot that I didn't know, and I didn't know what to wear, and my hair was really long and ratty, and I hadn't had it cut in forever, and I was heavier than I just had a baby a few months
your
before.
Body was just going through all of it.
Yeah, and I felt very myself when I was at home with Jasper, nursing him or putting him to sleep or walking him on the beach, but I didn't know how to reconcile that with the person who was showing up to this office, trying to wear normal clothes that, I could button up or button down, and trying to stop counting ounces and hours for a minute so that I could focus on this. And I just didn't know if I could do it. And you really helped push me and get us organized, but also, you had this vision and you just kept going. And it, after, again, those first few episodes, I feel like as the podcast got stronger, so did I. As these conversations got stronger, so did I. I stopped shrinking so much. I was so afraid to say anything. I was afraid to ask hard questions. I was afraid to jump in. I felt like there was a lot of noise. I was still coming out of the fog and fury of new life. And so I feel like now I think about it and I'm like, we moved offices. Troy and I have a rhythm with Jasper that's amazing, and he's doing great. And I fit back into my clothes, and, you know, I'm putting on makeup again, and I got my hair cut, and I'm blonde now.
She's platinum, bitch.
You will see photos. I am not blonde.
I was going to say, side note for everyone, Claire got her hair done for the first time and called me and said, I'm blonde. And I met up with her, and and then I just gave into it, and I was like, girl, you are platinum.
I'm a little lighter brown, maybe.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. But that's it. And I feel like a little even sheepish talking about myself this way too, even making this all about us. But I do feel like it's important for people to know who we are.
Yeah.
And discern for themselves whether, you know, the people that we are on this podcast are authentic or not, but at least get to know us a little bit and know where we were and what our intentions were with all of this.
Yeah, and I think, like, at the end of the day, something that was really brave of you to do was to come into this role at such a vulnerable time, sort of unknowingly, right? Because you were already walking down the path to signing this deal before you really realized that it was going to be congruent with having a child for the first time, you know, in a city without family and all of, you know, there's so much to the bravery that I think putting yourself out there on the podcast is sort of the true, like, intro of who you are. And that's why I wanted that for you so bad, because from the moment I met you, felt like there's this incredible tiny little fury of a powerful woman, and nobody really knows her, you know? And, like, I don't know where it was, but when it just said, like, Troy and wife, da-da-da-da-da, the feminist in me felt so, like, repulsed. Like, why don't you just take a little bit more time to, like, maybe, like, research what she does and who she is. And so I appreciate that, you know, as a woman who lived in New York and led, you know, as a career woman, to be able to basically introduce yourself to a new city and, like, kind of set that career, not aside, but, like, not let that lead, because I'm totally that woman where, like, career leads all conversations. There was a time in my life where it was clear how uncomfortable I was with all other parts of myself because I could only talk about work because that was my identity. And I know that that's also something that we really bond over because it's where we feel successful and seen. But I so appreciate, and I've never told you this because I'm just realizing it right now, that, like, you introduced yourself to the entire county of San Diego, or those, you know, listeners that are listening and people that have seen this, by talking about vulnerability. And, like, that's such a, like, new thing for society, and I just applaud you for that, because I think that's such a beautiful example of why we did this. We want women to not have to lead with a career to talk about being a parent, but then also jump into, like, the big acquisition that they did, you know, and to be able to, like, talk about both and feel comfortable in both the workspace and at home to be both of those women and many others.
That. I mean, because the truth is I am both.
Yeah.
And it's a marriage of identities that I definitely struggle with, you know, and I think and this really does apply to women who don't work in a professional setting, but are stay-at-home moms too, that you still have two identities. Yeah. And having that marriage can sometimes be a huge challenge. And so, yes, am I competent, and can I create a business plan, and can I make decisions and structure a team and sign, you know, strategic relationships and negotiate contracts? Absolutely. And sometimes do I wake up and have no idea how I'm going to do it all because I'm so tired, or I just want to be at home? Absolutely. Right. And I think we can be all of those things, and it makes us stronger to admit it.
Yeah. Love that.
So let's talk about you, Miss Blonde Actual Bombshell. You are blonde, and you are back in San Diego, making your way downtown.
Yes, you did.
We can edit that out.
You did. I think we should keep it.
Okay, it's in. So you are born and raised San Diego, from Coronado. Yes. But you left for a good amount of time to Chicago, where you started your own agency. Did phenomenally well, and then you had a baby. Yeah. So can you talk me through what that looked like, living in Chicago, getting pregnant, and what brought you back to San Diego?
Yeah, so I started Chrome City, my agency, in Chicago, and the thing that I loved so much about Chicago is there's just such a strength of a community that you could only understand if you've lived in, like, a city that like just encourages growth and says yes to everything and any ideas like how do we make it happen. And, you know, while we were a very successful agency, now owning a company is the most challenging thing I had ever done in my whole life. And I, have had a lot of time to reflect because currently we're just like a small consultancy and I'm best to not have a big team and just use freelancers. And I say that because, for a very long time, and my children softened me from this, was so harsh in the work environment that I was probably looked at, and I'm sure this word might have been used, like as a tyrant of a boss. I had 2 women bosses who were ruthless. They were older, of course, right? So I understand where that comes from because they had to shred through walls that I have never had to even see. But I learned how to be a boss from women who led through shame and fear, and I was that woman. And I thought I was making better people by doing that. And I've seen so many women, specifically because I hire women usually, come through my house, as I like to call it, and leave my house and go on to incredible careers that I feel very confident I instilled, and taught them a lot. And I feel comfortable saying that. But at the same time, my methods were flawed. And I didn't have anyone to show me the ropes of really how to run a business. And so while I appreciate you saying that we were phenomenally successful and we, achieved great things and had a big staff and my dream clients, there was a lot of challenging times behind that curtain that I want to acknowledge. And then at the peak of it, I would say I was 30 years old on the dot. I had this huge birthday at this multi-level event space that had just opened with this incredible industrial designer named James Geyer, who was a client of mine who I loved to pieces, a tough man to please, but a wonderful guy. And my mom flew out and I looked at her and I said, isn't it so funny that when you were this age, you were pregnant with me? And I'm just so far from that.
Oh my God.
I always was asked out on dates since I was young. I've always gone on dates. My friends that were like, how do you go on so many dates? I don't know. I'm just tall. I don't know what happens. But I never had serious boyfriends. And with a lot of work, of course, reflecting on that, I was just so afraid of losing my momentum with my career because it's what fed every part of me, that I would like date people that were like clearly not destined for, long-term love and vulnerability. And there's all kinds of other daddy issues behind that. But nonetheless, here we are at this party on my 30th birthday for all my clients and friends. And I look my mom in the eye and say that. And about 2 months later, I found out that I was pregnant.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I knew I had a choice, but I instantly felt very connected to this soul and spirit. I don't know what it was because on paper it was like a clear, like, don't have that child, continue on. And right before I got pregnant with him, I remember thinking, oh, I haven't thought about like family in a long time. Like, is that something I still want? Like, do I even want to get married? Like, do I need to reassess that thought? It wasn't ever on my mind to the point where like, it was literally like, oh yeah, I should like think, why do I always say like marriage and kids or when I have a family, like, is that actually something I want? And I decided I was okay without it. And that I had this picture in my head because I'm a huge manifester and like a lot of images in my head come to life. That I was going to be in Saint-Tropez with a cigarette in hand and drinking white wine and having like the biggest clients in the world. And that was all I needed. And literally as soon as I like released the thought of like needing to have family, like I found out I was pregnant.
Oh my God.
I reverse manifested. No, I released the control of an idea and thus I think it came to me. So here I am at the peak of my career and working with nightclubs. I was the nightclub PR person. I was the storyteller for these incredible owners who had restaurants and then would open nightclubs. And I would help like continue the seamless story through the brands throughout all of them. But like, you can't have a pregnant girl in a nightclub.
Oh my God.
So it really became a challenge because I didn't build a company where there was somebody that could be me, replace me like I was it. And I had so many people that like did so many incredible functionalities for the business. But I found out I was pregnant, and it was incredibly challenging. And I remember trying to hide it for as long as I could, but I'm like a very thin person. So like by month 4.5, I remember telling like our best client, and I said, Danny, you know, I got to tell you something. I'm pregnant. And he goes, honey, I know.
Oh my God, stop.
I literally thought I just like looked really bloated, but so it was really hard. And Henry was born January 15th, and I had one of our biggest events to produce on New Year's Eve for this artist collective that I worked for. So here I was 9 months. And at like, you know, a rave basically that we were producing, and like ABC was there filming, and my cousin who just did my hair, Bree, she was there too. And like, it was so funny because it was like from a movie where guys would like lock eyes with me and like smile, and then I like look down and be like, that's a what the fuck, this bitch is pregnant, like what? So I had the baby. It's a very traumatic birth, and I won't go into details, but a lot of PTSD that was like undiagnosed at the time, and a lot of hurt, and not really around the ways people would think. Like I was okay being alone. I had a lot of support. My mom flew out and stayed for like months at a time. I mean, she was just like incredible. I found like an incredible nanny, and I found this mansion in Chicago that I ended up like, I was trying to figure like a live workspace because I was going to be a single mom. And I kept thinking like a loft where I could have like his bedroom upstairs and the office downstairs. And that way, like I could, you know, be with him. And I ended up in Ukrainian Village finding this incredible old mansion where the owners lived on like the second floor, and the first floor was gigantic. And I split the house in half, and there was 4 bedrooms and this long hallway. And then these just ridiculous amount of like large living room spaces that we turn into the office. And, I did the best I could, you know, but in the moment I thought I had it all. So that's the beautiful thing. Like my mind and my optimism told me like, you got this. And it was hard as fuck, but like my mind literally was like survival mode. You got this. I developed like another voice in my head that was like not me. That was just like, girl, stand up. Like it was this voice of power. And of course it was me, but I don't know. I just got through each day, but there's so much like trauma that I'm literally working through in therapy right now. That's like around like, you know, the crunching of the snow while like holding the car seat. I didn't know how to drive in the snow, and I didn't have a car, and I didn't make enough money to buy one. So I'm like taking an Uber and like sweating because I'm in 16 layers trying to get this screaming baby who's like tiny when my mom leaves town into the cab to like buckle in and make sure it's probably definitely not done in a safe way. Oh my God,
I know, the fear.
The fear and the absolute terror, I would say. I mean, it's true terror.
Yeah.
And to go, you know, into the hospital, and I have like no muscles at all because I've been pregnant. So I'm trying to hold this heavy thing, and I'm in a very underserved hospital because my health insurance is a small business owner's health insurance. And, it was horrible. It was horrible. And, I tried so hard to like just keep going as if nothing had happened because I didn't have anybody there to like help me acknowledge that transition, because everyone just wanted me to get back to work. So there was no like, oh my God, how's it going? It's like, oh my God, he's so cute. So like that thing that we talked about, that problem, that contract, that this, you know, there was no like friends with kids. There was no like, let's go to the park and hang out or beach. It's like hard city, hard partying. When's the next hotel opening? Like just so intense. And I lived for that. It made me feel alive. It's why I love that city so much. But like, when trying to like find where is the soft that I need to have for this child, which of course, like you said, when it's just he and I, it's so there. My identity was fucked. Like I was just like, you know, I remember this very vivid memory of him being 6 months, and it's the dead heat of the Chicago summer, and I'm walking him to the grocery store and thinking like, this is so nice. And all of a sudden I like look at my feed, and it's just like everyone's at Soho and everyone's like having rosé, and like I didn't have the nannies or babysitters that I could just call on a whim like I do today. Like I get to go out all the time because I have like a slew of San Diego State young ladies that help my ass out. Thank you so much. And I just remember thinking, like, this is what it's going to be like. You know, I can't, like, pop over to the cool, like, art opening that's, like, starts at 9 p.m. and, like, bring him. I just don't have enough people at night that I trust or that, like, can help. And so my mom would always be like, you can always come home. You can always come home on the phone. Or it'd be, like, 10 below. And she'd be like, it's 72 here. You can always come home. But I felt like in my heart I was going to be like 16 and pregnant and like come home and live at home and like just like fall into some weird like
that you had failed.
Yes. And so I waited until I couldn't wait anymore, until he was 1.5. And I moved back and lived in this little cute house in Talmadge. And I felt broken. I was just so sad. I felt like I had failed. I really did. And in a lot of ways, I did fail that part of my career. You know, I did call it release. I mean, narrative is so important, but like I clearly had to put a closure to something that, something had to die over there, for me to then like really give life. And so it took me a really long time because I too lived by coastal. I would be here with Henry. Our house was like barely decorated. I mean, like we had what we needed, but like it didn't look like a home. I just saw a picture the other day and I was like, I can't believe we lived in that house, because it was like couch from a garage sale, like a hand-me-down coffee table. It was just bare minimum. And I would go back for like 4 to 5 days, put out all the fires, make sure none of the clients fired us, make sure that the team was happy, which they usually weren't, and just try to like go. And I thought I had it all. See, then again, I would go, oh my God, I get to live my life. I get to see my friends. I get to like, honestly be away from Henry for 4 days and like party and close deals and do that. And then I get to come home and work on the computer and be with him. But then in retrospect, like I was leaving my son for 4 days at a time through such an important time. And once again, thank God for my mom, because she watched him every time with so much love and joy. And so it took a long time, and really kind of meeting Jason to like start really building a life here.
Building a family too. I feel like you guys are such a unit, and you and Jason are real co-parents of both Henry and your child together, your biological child together. And I said to him the other night at Best of San Diego, I was like, I love how, and I'm a step parent too, you know, but it's different for us in many different ways. But I just love how he took on Dad without condition. Yeah. He is so there and loves you so much and really sees your magic. And I feel like you do have it all, even if you had to give up a lot. And maybe that's part of that. That's sort of a thread that we discovered a lot through all the women and the dads that we interviewed, is that it's like you can have it all. You just don't know what it all is, and you don't know what it looks like. And you're going to have to make sacrifices.
Well, and it's that giving up of control of what that looks like, right? Like we define success, and that's why I love this like younger generation. Like I'm 36, so I'd say like the kids in their young 20s, because like their definition of success has evolved into such a beautiful, undiscovered, open to anything, as long as they're happy and they're taking care of their mental health. Like their definition is so different. And while I think I can honestly say like probably the best life that it's a life I could have never imagined. It took a lot of time, a lot of transition, and it was certainly not what I had originally anticipated.
Yeah, I feel like for you had to really embrace change geographically. I mean, to go from being 30 and turning 30, staring at an amazing career in a city that's very different than San Diego and where you came from, to being like, I'm going to have a child myself, and I'm going to move back home and build back a career that maybe looks different.
And it did. I thought I would just jump right into an agency again, and because that's of course what had worked, and it didn't work. I didn't have that fight in me to like go after like brands and businesses that I like knew other women that had children that I respected that had built PR firms out here it just didn't feel good to me, you know, and that dog in me wasn't there anymore, you know, like that's what I used to love. I used to be like, I'm winning this fucking business. I don't care what it takes.
But maybe that is part of the fate of all of this, you know, that you let go of that person. Maybe that person was really just masking all of the trauma, and that who you are is actually a much softer person. One way or another. You know, you don't have to be soft to be kind, but you know what I mean.
I was afraid of being soft because I thought, you know, especially in Chicago, like I earned so much business and I earned so much respect, and like the connections that I had with my male counterparts of my clients, I truly felt was because I was like a dog, you know, and I like that. There's a lot of masculinity inside of me that like I felt was only acknowledged or seen or like embodied through that work, you know, of being a dog and like going after things, even if it wasn't like against other women. It wasn't like that, you know?
No, I get it. Yeah. It's the rat race.
Yeah.
So, but it's a very different world here in San Diego that I'm definitely learning too. And so are you building back your business? Are you plateauing? What are you trying to do right now? What's your North Star?
Yeah. I mean, I tried to do the agency thing, and the pricing structures really were so profoundly different that I didn't even know how to like scale a business with the pricing here. And then I also didn't have the ability to go out and meet people and connect to even know, like, I have so many skills. I'm a great copywriter. I'm a great project manager. Like, there's all these things that I did as a business, as an owner of a PR agency. But really, we were a creative agency with many projects just dependent on the need, right? With such a shift towards social and content creation and storytelling. But again, like I don't do like the data-driven social. I don't do like the metrics and the ads. So there's also so many things I don't do. And as you get older, you're very much more clear on what you can offer and not offer. You know, you're not going to offer something if you can't pull through. So anyways, I started this company called Hustlecraft. And the reason I started it was because I would like spend all these hours after I would put Henry down, and being, you know, single, I had nowhere to go and nobody to watch him. So I would just be at the house. And I was like discovering these little like pockets of creatives just via Instagram. And those are people that I wish I could say like, hey, do you want to go like get coffee or do you want to whatever? But I just didn't have the support. I mean, my mom, of course, but like not the family structure that I have now with Jason or babysitters, et cetera, to support that. And I didn't have anything to offer either. Like I didn't want to waste anyone's time and go like, hey, can you grab coffee? I'm just trying to like get to know people in San Diego when like they're busy creating.
Right.
Who am I, right? And so I decided like, well, if I could put together an event where I curate the speakers based on what I'm seeing that I find interesting, that are like hustling as hard as I once hustled, and I can hustle hard on this event to get that feeling again, then maybe, just maybe, I can connect with like a new crowd of people and creatives in San Diego. And so it's actually part of the stories and like potentially in an upcoming issue. But I failed. I curated the shit out of this thing. The design was incredible. Like the social following was great. The ticket sales were pretty good. Nobody came. It was like, you know, December 5th, cold day, you know, San Diego, it's cold and it's like, let's stay in. People are holiday shopping. And here I had, you know, the likes of like Anthony Schmidt from CH Group. I had John Resnick from Shoot and Jolie up there on the hospitality panel. And I look out to the crowd and there's like 7 people sitting there with like 50 seats open. And it was a great lesson because I realized that I felt like I failed in San Diego again, but I got to know so many people and like just kind of reintroduce myself. And from there, I started the Blank Table with my friend Frederick, and we continue to do that. We've got 2 more left of this season. It's incredible and it's labor staking, to say the least. But and now I'm been asked by different brands to just consult. And it's this like love and passion of mine that like, I don't like PR. There, I said it. I don't like doing PR. If I happen to have a relationship with a writer and they want to write about it and it comes up naturally in conversation, great.
Yeah.
But the pitch, like I never succeeded at like national press. That was all my girl Allison at Chrome City. it just wasn't my thing. If I had time to go out to New York and talk to people, I could have, but I was only getting great PR because like I just happened to be homies with the people who made those decisions. But I was always like, if you can, you can. But I don't have that pressure to be like, here's X amount of money per month. I need to see how many hits you can get. That's not joyful to me at all. What's joyful to me is to sit down with a client and say like, what's coming up? What's on the horizon? Do we want some partnerships? How can we restructure this? How can you make more money this way? Is the lighting off? Do we need music here? Who should we have for music? And there's this flow and this joy that I truly never thought was possible as a consultant, that basically every job I've ever had kind of brought me to this point.
Right, you're good at it because you sought those other positions, you sought those other jobs, and you learned along the way, and you recognized what you weren't good at.
Yes.
I feel like that's a huge part of my professional journey, is being like, you know what? That is not my skill set.
Yes.
Instead of being like, I can do it all. Yes, I can. I'll figure it out. I'll Google, I'll research, I'll talk to people. It's like, that's not who I am. I can't do it. You're better off finding somebody who can. This is what I'm good at.
Yes.
And this is what I want to do for you.
Right. And with you having a team too, it's great because you can really honor your staff by saying like, I'm super not good at that, to like say a client, but you know who is? Emily, you know, and then you give them that, like, I see you, I see what you're good at. That's not my thing.
Same.
And so, yeah, I mean, I know exactly what I'm able to provide, and it's come in lots of different forms. I just started working with like this friend from high school who reached out, who has this like technologically driven, sustainable, eco-friendly furniture company, and he just needed help on like a few decks to design them.
Oh my God, can you send him our way? Yeah.
It's amazing. But, you know, just like weird things like that, or like Jillian Ziska is my client and she owns like an event company. She's literally so incredible. She has like a warehouse of the most successful, I mean, it's truly like the most sought after event design company. And she's like 30.
Oh my God.
And she's got Verbena. She's a restaurant owner. And I'm not trying to plug my clients. I'm just describing like the way and the type of people I work with, where like she is such a visionary, and she just like is revamping Adams Avenue Theater, this historic theater in Normal Heights, and we just work so well together because there is no time for BS. We are straight to the point, but we love each other, respect each other, and she's good at something that I'm not, and I'm good at something that she's not.
Yeah, that's a really good way of saying it. It's that symbiotic relationship that I feel like as working parents especially, that's sort of what it all boils down to. Like, we have to fit into each other's chaos in one way, shape, or form, or like, it's just, I'm going to need a 5-year break and I'll see you on the other side, and I love you, but I have 2 babies, my job and my baby, and this is what I've got, and we can only do, you know, as much as we can do. Troy looked at me the other day. It was something small that we dropped the ball on, and I was like, God damn it, I can't believe I missed that. And he just looked at me like, you know, in Troy's very chill way, and he was like, you can't do it all. And I was like, you're right. But what I can do is say that. I can't do it all. Yeah. But I'm going to figure out what's most important to me, and I'm going to do those things the best that it can be done.
Yeah. And just, you know, that's why I like that, like, we're at this age. I fucking love this age. Like, 36 is just glory to me, because I can say to a client, I dropped the ball. Can I have it to you tomorrow?
Yeah.
And like working for other people, or when I, you know, had to cover 10 people's salaries and didn't even know how I would make it each month, like, there was not saying that because you thought you'd lose them, you know, and here I am. I'm like, hey man, I dropped the ball, or Henry's appointment went late. Can I get it to you tomorrow?
Right.
You know, the San Diego way.
The San Diego way.
No problem. Like, I love it.
They're like, oh, is that due today? No problem.
Right. Totally. So yeah, it's this beautiful piece that has occurred that all sort of started from the time that I became a mother. And now we get to have this podcast as we both really break down like our identities and being San Diegans, and the beauty and like joy that comes from like what the city gives us, from like even the nourishment of like fresh produce that I get to cook with all the time, to like great humans who are free in their souls. And, you know, I mean, there's just so much.
And I feel like why I want to continue doing this too is because of exactly the journey that you've described from Henry to now, that I'm going to change, and I'm kind of
Yes.
very excited to see how Jasper's going to change me and make me
Yes.
stronger. And I hear the wisdom of mothers, and I'm like, God, I just don't. Wisdom is earned; it's not bought, and I don't have it yet. You know, so
You have so much wisdom.
I have instinct when it comes to him, but I'm a fresh mom, and
Yeah.
I'm changing, and I don't know what that looks like. And
Yeah.
I do want to bleed out a little bit,
Yeah.
you know, like I want to say, like, I don't know who I am. I
Yeah.
don't know what filter I am on Instagram. I don't know
Right.
where we're going to be in 5 years. I don't know who he is, and I don't know how he's going to change me, but
Yeah.
and I'm scared a little bit too, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
It is.
You know.
I think the wisdom comes from the letting go of control, like you said. So that's why I said you do have the wisdom, because once you let go of control of needing to know how to mother the right way, like, what the fuck does that mean? You know, like, I see them and I hold them the way that, like, my soul tells me to. And that's wisdom. You know, the wisdom comes from coming back here. And that's my whole life journey right now.
Yeah, I know. You know, we can end it pretty soon too. I'm sorry. I know this has gone late, but I texted my friends the other day. I had this moment with Jasper, you know, like how every week's different. And I had this week where I was like killing it. I just like knew what he needed. I got him down to sleep every night. Troy was filming grocery games, and it was like, I got this, no problem. I was sharp at work. I wasn't even tired. I was like, fuck, I'm so set right now.
I love how the biggest triumph right now in our life is like, I wasn't even tired.
I wasn't even tired. And then it was like 2 days in a row of like missed cues, way behind on phone calls, like messages coming in, like, did you see I called? Did you see I called? I just couldn't catch up.
Yeah.
And like the car was running low on gas. There was no food in the house. I'm feeding Jasper and giving him a mango and then feeding him milk. And then I'm rocking him, and I can't get him to sleep, and he's crying, and he just pukes all over me, like projectile vomited. And I couldn't believe that I was like overfeeding him because I was so distracted. Like, I know it's 4 ounces before bed, and I tried 6 anyway because I was just distracted. And you're
already, that narrative is so hard on yourself.
I know I am. And I am because I texted my friends the next day, and I was like, sometimes it's just really hard to feel incompetent. You know, and I feel incompetent so often, and it's not because I am incompetent, but it's because I'm in fact challenging myself with learning something new every single day.
Exactly.
And surround yourself with people that are smarter than you and learn from them.
Yes.
Recognize when to say, I don't know how to do this. Can you show me?
Yes.
Or like, I want to have an answer for you, babe, but I'm scared and don't want to commit right now. Can you wait until tomorrow?
Yeah.
You know, or like, I'm just too tired. I can't call you back.
Yes.
And I feel like that is like all stuff I'm learning right now. And to even just have my friends be like, you're a good mom. You're a good mom. You're a good mom. It was like, you need to hear that.
Yeah,
you know?
you do. Yeah, you do. And it's something that like I 5 years, 5.5 years into the journey of being mom, like I'm certain of, like even with really bad postpartum anxiety, my mom was like, you're such a great mom. And I was like, thank you, Mom. And I so appreciated it, but I also really knew it. I did know it. And that changes a lot of things. And that's why this is so fun to do with you, because like, while we're figuring things out and unsure of so much, we're also very sure of a lot of things. And I think I look forward to you giving yourself more credit for that, because you're sure of a lot of things, and your vision is leading, the biggest publication in the city, with the probably vastest reach to new heights, because you continue to push the vision. You continue to push the movement, of it forward. And that's the most important way that we can get to know our community and our city, is through that vision.
Because we're going to make something real cool.
Can't wait.
All right. Is that it? Oh my God. We have gotten so good at this. It's like exactly an hour.
Yeah, 58 minutes. Do we want to do our favorite things really quick?
Oh, did you prep
on the spot?
Something? Okay. Do it.
Favorite restaurant? Can we do that? Maybe we can't.
No, I'm sure we can. Favorite restaurant? That's such a hard one for me. Come on.
I just wanted the first thing that came to your head.
The first thing that came to my head was Fort Oak. No question.
Okay.
I love Fort Oak. But I mean, there's just...
No, it's just a first singer.
A first singer?
Whatever the first zinger comes to your head.
What's your favorite?
Wormwood.
Wormwood. That
Wormwood's
is your
my favorite restaurant.
Oh, I love that.
I love it.
It's so cute. It gives me major Brooklyn vibes.
I love it.
Okay, favorite beach spot.
Coronado Shores.
I love that too.
What about you?
OB.
Yeah. You mean down the street from your house?
Yeah.
Okay, 30 seconds left.
Favorite tattoo parlor.
Ooh. I don't have one, and I have a lot of tattoos.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't.
What about record of the week?
Ooh. I was listening to a lot of Duke Ellington this weekend.
Were you?
Yeah. What about you?
What do we have? Right now on our vinyl player is Olivia Rodrigo. That's what Elia brought home.
Oh, yeah. Elia loves that.
Yeah, she bought an Olivia Rodrigo record, but we were playing Edith Piaf the other day, and it was quite a lovely Sunday morning.
I love that. Cheers to a great season. I'm proud of us, and keep listening. There's more to come next
See you
season.
next season.